Hello, viewers. This is Dr. Qamar Cheema, and please do subscribe my new YouTube channel, The New World. Thank you very much, Mr. Somet Peer, for joining me at a very important talk which we are going to have today. And that talk is that the Americans are blaming that India is laundering Russian oil. So recently, the U.S. State Department senior advisor of the U.S. State Department has said that on June 9 in a Senate hearing, he said that he said that I would ask two things to Indians. One, do not go too far. So it seems a threat. And he's further said, do not look like that you are taking advantage of the pain that is being felt in European households and the United States. This is the US State Department said in the Senate to India. So, how do you see, Mr. Somit, this statement which is coming from the US State Department, which is a very important and strategic partner of India right now? On the one hand, they are hugging Prime Minister Modi at the I2U2. On the other hand, they are threatening you and they're saying, we are warning you and you are laundering Russian oil. So, how do you see that statement, please?
Thank you, Dr. Cheema. Thank you for having me on your show. It's a pleasure as always. To come to the point of discussion, this statement was in some international media. We saw it somewhere. But let me tell you, with all the conviction at my command, there is nothing like that which is happening on the ground at a conceptual level, which has been even clarified by the Honorable External Affairs Minister of India. So if some people think, assume, presume, believe, or they think that this might be happening, conceptually, when the thing is not happening at the ground, when then there's no so-called alleged laundering of the oil happening and all, so the question as such does not arise. Yes, we are buying Russian oil. We have bought a bit more Russian oil because if you see the kind of turmoil which is happening in the world, and if you see today, uh, with a lot of conviction, I will tell you that President Biden is asking everybody else to pump more and more oil. And you see the economic outlook of the world is not very good. The economic outlook of Europe has been brought down. And overall, the economic outlook of China is reduced. Overall, the economic outlook of world has been brought down by 1.5%. That is at a global level. So with this energy security, food security, and other securities are important for a nation of 1.35 billion. We have to do everything in our command and within our power to ensure that our industry, our people, and our interests do not suffer. So if it means buying a little bit of more Russian oil for vis-a-vis the food security, energy security, and the national security as such, that's a decision what we have taken and will of course take it. Now, there is this absolute clarity vis-a-vis that. But the problem here, or the allegation here, is laundering of the oil. Why should we do it on this earth? Because Dr. Shima, the implications are big. We will upset our very, very good friend and strategic ally, United States of America. We will upset Russians because if we try to do this, even we even think of doing this, that will upset the Russian oil interests, that will upset the American interests, that will upset our allies and partners in the region, that will upset a lot of things in the world order. So there is no point of doing it. If somebody wants to buy Russian oil, they might as well go to Russia, or for that matter, let them go to China. And China sells literally everything. Let them go to China and buy from there. So India, in any way whatsoever, is not at all into this business in any way, direct, indirect, express, implied, or in any way whatsoever. The conclusions or the perceptions, the illusions are being drawn by the fact that we are importing more oil. So somebody has made a hypothesis, because you are importing more oil, because your imports are more, because of that, we believe you are selling, oil to some Americans and Europeans. We are with the people of Europe. We want the American. We want this Russian Ukrainian war to stop. So how are we kind of impacting that war? How are we kind of impacting their lives? We have been always talking of peace. We have been still saying that given an opportunity and responsibility, we can even ensure the peace prevails. So with such an intent, with such an intentions, with helping the world with vaccines, with all food aid and all kinds of things, we, by our design, by our civilization, will never ever do this, which will upset a lot of paradigms in the world. These are all allegations which are baseless. These are drawn by the numbers. Somebody has run some hypothesis and come up with a thing. And this has been clearly said no and reputed by the Honorable External Affairs Minister. So the case stands closed as we talked, sir.
So the question here is that the Russian oil is 30 to 40 dollar per barrel is cheap. One thing,
Right.
the Reliance Industries to whom they contacted because they are into this process, they didn't comment on that. Whereas it is said that just in May, India imported 1.9 billion dollar oil from Russia, and whereas that's a very big number. Uh,
Correct.
so don't you think with all these statistics, it gets even difficult for India to comment or to just backtrack and say that yes, we are not into it. And let me further add one more thing that will help you to further build the question and further build the answer as well. There is a statement that has come from the White House, and that is about this I2U2 joint statement of the leaders of India, Israel, UAE, and the United States, where the in this clean energy project, this I2U2 group is going to invest somewhere as per the hybrid renewable energy project. They are going to invest 300 megawatt project in Indian state of Gujarat of wind energy and solar capacity.
Correct.
Now my question is that is West taking it very seriously that you are importing oil from Russia, and they believe that we need to allure India, we need to win over the confidence of the India, and we need to attract you that do not go for that. And we are, if you need energy, we are putting money here in Indian state of Gujarat, that is Prime Minister Modi's home state as well. So how do you see that if on one hand you're getting a Russian oil and the West want to allure you by giving you clean energy project in Prime Minister Modi's state? Don't you think that that is some sort of incentive to stop India that do not create or do not give so much value to the Russian crude oil?
Okay, Dr. Chima, there are two different questions, so I'll break them and answer one by one. The first part of it is Reliance did not comment because there is no need to comment. Because if you start commenting on hypothesis because you are importing more oil, that is because we are doing this, and then we assume, presume, believe, and we rather hallucinate you are doing this. So you cannot answer presumptions and assumptions and hallucinations. So if I may be a bit blunt with my words, so kindly excuse me. So there's no need to comment on that because we are a country which are driven by ethics, and the Reliance Industries is a industry which is again driven by ethics. They are a global world player today. They're not a small, small house. They're not a small fry in the global trade even as we talk. So ethics and reliance and Indian commitment go hand in hand. There will be no compromise on that. If we or India or Reliance start kind of answering every this and that, so then the people will start breaking words and sentences, then commas, apostrophes, and all. When there is nothing like that, which is conceptually on the ground, it does not warrant an answer. If there is something like that which is happening on the ground, then an answer is warranted. We cannot answer to hypothetical situations. That's point number one. So now coming to the another part is that I'll answer and I'll add one more point to it. You must recall, Dr. Chima, that a few months back, India, US, and China, I think it was a few months, kind of at one go, three together, took 5% of their oil reserves, pulled 5% of their oil reserves because the oil prices were skyrocketing. Even if you remember, in the month of June and then month of May, so these had almost said that by 1st June, the oil price barrel will be $120 per barrel, and by July they will want to pull it to 150. This is again on the open record, right? There was trend, and because after this the oil prices started, after the Russian oil came in and after the strategic reserves were opened, the oil prices started a bit of stabilizing. Now, as a country, we have already taken out 5% of all oil reserves. We have to replenish them. That's point number one. Point number two, we have to also build more reserves looking at the current oil or the energy situation around the world. We have to look at the situation where US's oil refining capacity is already at 94%. And US has not added the capacity, by the way. That's on record. They had an option of adding the capacity. They decided not to add in some environment and other things. So that is the point number three. Now, US is talking to Venezuela, okay, let me ease your sanctions. But even if they ease the sanctions, by the time the Venezuelan oil starts hitting the road, it will be 2 years down the line. So the overall position of oil is a bit skewed. Iran is trying to sell its oil because they are not given permission. Russia is selling its oil, right? And OPEC is still playing that uh, catch me kind of a game. So because the more supplies hit the market, the price falls down. In that way, India buying Russian oil has helped an oil barrel not to reach $150. That's point number one. We are getting our reserves back. We are building our reserves. So this is done in the interest of the nation. This is done in the interest of the energy and the national security. And I gave you the reasons sequentially why it is done. So Reliance not answering is but natural because there's no need, no cause to answer. Now, coming to question number two, which is about ITU2. Now, Dr. Chima, ITU2 is a new alliance. It's a new alliance in the world order with four different countries, major countries of the world, and with four different religious identities have come together and form a first ever alliance. Now, the virtual summit happened, and in this, incidentally, there were two major announcements. One is a $2 billion investment by UAE, which is our third biggest trading partner into India for this integrated food parks. This will be the first of its kind, and I am very sure more investments will happen where this will be 360-degree approach: farmers, production, logistics, supply, packed, kind of raw food, semi-cooked or semi-processed, processed, all kinds and types will be available with best technology and eco-friendly systems. A lot of food waste. There'll be no food wastage. India will provide the land. These people will provide, put the money. Somebody will provide the technology, like Americans and Israelis will provide the technology. UAE guys will put in the money. India will give the land. This is what is happening vis-a-vis that integrated food park, and that's $2 billion. And this is the first thing, first token thing. And as we have discussed earlier, within the next 15 to 20 years, Indian retail is worth $3 trillion. So there'll be a lot of more things which will come up. It's a very welcome step. It again came from ITU2. Now, ITU2 second agenda, the first part, the what I told you about the integrated food park, the point B of this is that food security. Because this initiative came forward because food security has become a major issue after Russian-Ukrainian conflict. So people are looking at a food security at a bigger dimension. So this initiative also superseded others vis-a-vis food security as a major concern. So this somewhere down the line will also ensure sustainable, technology-friendly food security. That's point number one. 1B rather. Now, in the same forum, it was decided that they will put around 300 watts of solar and wind energy will be kind of started from Gujarat. Now, incidentally, Dr. Chima, India is the biggest provider of solar energy as we talk. And we have exceeded all our commitments, and we had set very ambitious targets. We are also the initiators of Sun Alliance, Surya Alliance, what we call it in Hindi, wherein all the people who have the solar power, they have there's a big complex which is dedicated near Delhi, and they kind of there are a lot of R&D, a lot of initiatives are being taken which will be implemented across the whole world. As we are the market leader and we are talking of clean, sustainable energy, here these guys stepped in and said, okay, why don't we do this 300 to 500 watt kind of a project, wherein we put around $300 million, and going forward we might put more money, seeing how the things look up. So it is an ongoing initiative where India has that expertise, India has the skill, India has delivered what it could, it would. So they are coming and capitalizing. I would use the word, they're coming and capitalizing on the existing strength of India. It supports and complements the role of sustainable energy. The technology piece comes in, the partnership comes in, and as we have the track record of delivery, it makes it a natural and a amicable option and a choice. So this food security and this integrated food park, and this is a natural progression because they are part of the agenda or the joint statement of ITU2. So they are not being brought in vis-a-vis Russian angle or something, because they are already part of the charter. So whatever is being done is done as being a part of a charter. So if you want to bring in the Russian angle just for the sake of argument, Israel is not impacted by the Russian oil. Americans are not impacted much by the Russian oil. And even UAE is not affected and all by the India buying Russian oil. So, merging the two will be a marriage of the oxymorons, which is not practical or neither sustainable. So let's look at two issues separately. Whatever is happening as per the charter, is as per the declaration. And honestly, I think this is a beginning. We have huge solar and wind power potential in the country, and we can really go go to the sky. And one important thing we are here is it that Americans and Israelis are bringing the technology, which is a battery bank based technology. I don't know how exactly to look right now. The buzzword is battery bank kind of a thing, wherein this energy produced will be stored. For the first time, such a big quantum of energy produced in a solar and wind farm will be also stored. So we have the land, we have the technology to produce it, but storage will come from Israelis and Americans. So this is how The people are working together in a new world order amidst your geographical, religious, and other barriers, and you are getting your parts of your strength together, joining them and building a sustainable product and a process which is sustainable and beneficial for the whole world.
Well, Mr. Samatbi, you explained it beautifully in a holistic manner. But I have one more question, and I want if you can kindly explain it. In this I do you to joint communique, which has come from the White House and the others as well, it has been said, as you mentioned in your conversation as well, that the Emiratis, the UAE, they're going to spend around $2 billion into the integrated food parks, where they will incorporate state of the art climate, smart technologies, reduce food wastage, spoilage, and they will conserve fresh water, and they will also have this, or they will employ the renewable energy sources. So, looking at the ground environment, we have seen that there have been farmer movements in the country. The federal government wanted to have some legislation at the federal level, but they couldn't do it. So, how far do you see it in a conducive environment to such kind of investment, where this integrated food parks could have a space for, because this is a some sort of a major international investment in such kind of a field. Do you think that the local environment, as we have seen the political movement, which we have seen the farmers movement most recently, which Prime Minister Modi had to face, and particularly the Punjab has been asking that they should open the border, and the supply should go to the Central Asia via land route from Pakistan, Afghanistan, and to the Central Asia, rather just supplying such kind of a food via planes or through the ships to the Middle East or the parts of the world. So, how do you look this thing? And please explain it a little bit. This integrated food parks as well.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Cheema. Thanks for the opportunity. You see, the first thing is here, when we talk of an integrated food park, what is it? It is, if I can put it very simply, it's a super mega food mall. We can call it a food mall so that people are able to understand it, wherein back end, front end, logistics, production, distribution, storage, and all is managed end to end. It's a 360-degree management, right? Wherein you exactly know what are you going to sell, when are you going to sell, who is going to produce, who is going to supply, who is going to transport, who is going to store. Now you can sell raw, you can sell semi-processed, processed, or even some part of it might be even a fully cooked food kind of a thing. That might be an option with some outlets here. Here, the idea is to use state-of-art technology vis-a-vis water conservation, production, organic farming, minimum use of pesticides, renewable energy, sustainable energy, and have the maximum quantum of yield per square, say, meter of a land. So all these things are being employed. And if you, for let me bring this to your attention, that if you talk of drip irrigation, if you talk about the how to use minimum water for maximum yield, the Israelis are number one in the world. Drip irrigation and how to use minimum water for the maximum yield, this technology was given by Israelis and still they are the masters. If you look at the technology of converting sea water into drinking water instantaneously, again, Israelis are the market leaders here. So Israel has that technology. So the yield part of it, sustainability part of it. I mean, if Israel literally can grow crops in desert, I mean, literally they've grown crops in, I have seen those strawberry farms in desert. So if they can grow strawberries in desert, so by the grace of God, we have a lot of land here. We don't need to go to the desert, but even they have the technology. So that is what Israelis bring in. UAE needs food security, so they are putting in the money, and we have the land. We can provide that, and and this will be a profitable venture. It's not a charitable venture. This will be a profitable venture. Americans bring in their, the piece of their cold storages and all. The biggest of them and the food chains and the food chain management is done by Americans. The biggest food chains are there in US and Europe. So all get together, join their strengths, and come up with a sustainable, this food parks or food bonds, I might say, wherein an X amount of sustainability and food security will be ensured. Now, this is only one initiative, Dr. Cheema. Now, like this, we can have 100 initiatives. And with one initiative, let's say we are building, let's say with this one initiative, we're bringing this to the table. With 100 initiatives, we bring this much to the table. So, because that will ensure sustainable food security with the utmost use of proper technology and maximum yield for the land. So, that's point number one. So, that is how the food parks works. Now, the point number two, what I want to make is your second part was that farmers movement and all that. You see, today, even with this farmers movement, first of all, was a political agitation. Because as we have discussed, only 6% of the farmers in India were covered by MSP. Now the Prime Minister Modi said, okay, we could not communicate this to the farmers, so in the interest of farmers, we are pulling it back at a central level. So the legislations have been pulled back, all the three. Now, going further into it. Now, if you see this year, we had the bumper crops in wheat and other grains and pulses and all. We had the bumper crop, especially the wheat was a super high bumper crop all along. Though the farmers, so-called farmers movement and all, the effect on the ground was not there when it comes to crop production of all the crops. We had bumper in all the crops, and especially wheat was a super bumper crop. Now, today, if we look at the food security, India is the only country which can supply wheat to the world amidst Russian-Ukrainian crisis, and Russia and Ukraine put together were supplying 30% of the wheat to the whole world. We can replace them. We have the capability to replace them, and if I may say, we even have ready stocks to a great extent to replace that today. If there are those WTO and other issues are kind of taken over, there's a lot of things going around that. Where there's a different discussion altogether. So that's point number two. The point number three, contract farming or integrated farming is even going today here. It is not. It is not going here today. It is going today. It is fully sustainable today. A lot of multinationals who are producing food grains like jams, jellies, and all, they're already using this technique. They're already using this for the last 10, 20 years. The only thing was there's not a legislation which is kind of mandatory. It is optional today. You want to do it, you don't want to do it. Even in the legislation, it was kind of optional, but people wanted to make a political storm out of it. So anyway, that's a thing of the past. So the mechanism is today working as on ground for a lot of MNCs in India. So likewise, if it is working for maybe 100 odd MNCs which are producing food and food products in India, it will also work for this integrated food park. Whichever company or joint venture will run it, they will also work on the same way. So there's no problem. Point number three, vis-a-vis opening the border for Pakistan and all. Look, these are long-term strategic things. We as a country are for trade, and I personally support trade. And I believe in trade, we should not look at those religion, caste, creed, and ethnicity and all. Trade should be universal, education should be universal, and brotherhood and humanity and aid, medical aid should be universal, and like vaccines and all. I'm a great supporter of vaccine for all. So these all things should be universal, but there are geopolitical compulsions, there are security issues, there are geopolitical issues, and there are some national security challenges as well which are involved. So government of the day, whenever they think it is right, whenever they think it is viable and optional, and whenever they think they are in a position where these risks have been mitigated by all the sides and these routes can be opened, maybe there's a day, one day it will be opened, and if at all it is opened, I will be of all for it. I have no problem in it opening. So, but vis-a-vis, when we are able to mitigate these challenges and we are convinced and our partners and stakeholders in the process assure us, look, this is going to work. And I hope and pray as an optimist that day will be soon. But when that day will come, when will it happen? Honestly, sir, it is very difficult for me to predict. But conceptually, I'm for it. Let's hope and pray that this day comes soon.
Yes, this is very important. I think this is a wonderful initiative to have such kind of investment in the region, and particularly since we have been calling that this region is could be a food basket of the world, and we have been producing. India has been producing. Pakistan has been producing some of the best rice in the world, and if that kind of investment can come in India, one day it can come in Pakistan as well, and together India and Pakistan can play a role as far as this food security is concerned. If the bilateral relations between India and Pakistan they good, uh, if they go good, and I'm hopeful and I'm optimistic for that matter that the things will be good one day. Thank you very much, Mr. Somit P, for helping us to understand that how the Americans believe that this Russian oil is coming and how what is an Indian perspective for that, and these new investment in terms of the clean energy and in the food security. It seems that the international community and the Americans want to really give a lot of support and push to India for being a major player in obviously South Asia. Thank you
I
very
want
much.
I want to
Yes.
conclude with two things, Dr. Cheema. Thanks for the opportunity. The two things I want to say is what it is rightly said, necessity is the mother of invention. And there is nothing more powerful in the world than an idea whose time has come. Thank you, sir.
So your time has come, and obviously you must celebrate the time if one has one has actually worked hard and the way India remained neutral so far in its history, I think it is helping India right now and it is getting incentive from everywhere. Thank you very much, Mr. Sumit P, for your time and